For over half a century, humans have endeavored to make business a force for good. But is the movement working? Or is it time to explore a new path forward? Welcome to Less Talk, More Action. We are your hosts, Joel Caesar and Owen Barrett, experts in clean energy, net zero real estate, decarbonization, and entrepreneurship. In each episode, we ask provocative questions and share stories from the front lines of sustainability with leaders in science, tech, and business taking real action to design a cleaner, better future. Thanks for joining the conversation. Now, let's get to work. Welcome to the Less Talk, More Action podcast. My name is Joel Caesar, the world's undisputed voice of building decarbonization and the reigning king of AI decarb. Joining me as always is Owen Barrett, the founder and CEO of America's fastest growing solar company. Today's guest, Bob Clark, a professor of heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration at the College of DuPage, a nationally recognized educator in HVAC. He was a cool guy. He was referred to us by a friend of the show, Kyle Hendricks, and I texted Kyle after the recording. I was like, oh, Bob didn't disappoint. Brought a lot of energy, brought a lot of hot takes, brought a lot of confidence in his program and what they're doing with education. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, he reminds me of when you meet someone that's so passionate about what they talk about that, you don't necessarily need to agree with everything that they say. You're kind of bought in because you're like, man, if everybody were this passionate about something in their lives, like the world would just be a better place. He just like carries that passion into everything he says.
Yeah. You know, when Kyle first told me to invite him, I looked him up. I was like, that's interesting. A professor at a trade school outside of Chicago. Okay. But I will trust Kyle. Once you talk to him, like, oh, I can see why you referred him here. He's our kind of guy.
Yeah. He's to the point, passionate. Love it.
Calling everyone out, doesn't care. But seems to be a great educator, cares about his students, doing amazing work. You know, it's anyone who's ever had a great teacher in their lives knows you remember that person forever. And, it sounds like he's really impacting a lot of people.
Yeah.
All right. But before we get in all that with Bob, let's dive into a segment we're calling Owen Takes on the Trump Administration. I guess we could have called this Owen Takes on the Trump Administration's faulty efforts to try to mitigate the utility dooming that's happening related to the hyperscalers and data center buildouts. So I'll let you take it away. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so if people have been listening to our podcast or really any podcast, they know that, I'm pretty excited about the electricity price growth that we're seeing from AI data centers. It's making it easier to sell solar. I don't think anyone can really deny that data centers are causing electricity price growth. And so in reaction to that, on March 4th, the White House passed their Ratepayer protection pledge, where they got all these big tech companies, Google, Meta, Microsoft, OpenAI, xAI, Oracle, to the White House to agree to a voluntary agreement that they will try and bring their own power to these data centers behind the meter as to not drive the price of electricity any higher. And the White House is celebrating this. Our boy Sachs from All In is celebrating this. Actually, all the All In guys are celebrating this as though it really matters. I mean, when have voluntary pledges ever worked? Like, why would anybody expect a pledge with no teeth, something that's non-binding? Like, I don't think anyone really believes that the tech companies are going to stick to this. I don't. And the fact that this is being celebrated at the highest level, as though the White House has done something to like protect the everyday American from electricity price increases, I just think is greenwashing.
But what about, we talk about all the time, we've been following the voluntary climate net zero commitments for years. Those are doing great, aren't they?
Look how those are doing. Everybody's hitting their net zero targets. I actually used
non-binding voluntary commitments. Yeah.
So I used, since this is an AI story, I used Gemini to tell me what are some examples of non-binding commitments not working. Their first one, AI safety and weapons development. In 2018, Google pledged not to use AI in weapons or surveillance. And by 2021, they had developed Project Nimbus, a $1.2 billion contract with Israel. The cattle industry pledged to eliminate deforestation as one of the results of their supply chain. This was in the 90s. Didn't happen at all. I mean, to your point, every net zero commitment that any company's ever made that was voluntary has not panned out. So why do we buy voluntary commitments at all? Like, who are we fooling?
All right, so the voluntary commitment is one side of the story. What's like the more technical side? Is that when you said to me we were teeing this up to make this a bit, you were like, it's not going to work. Is that why the
It's not
voluntary
going to
piece?
work. Nobody's going to, nobody's going to follow through. Nobody's going to be the watchdog to make sure that these tech companies are doing this.
You're going to get into reporting. Who's submitting the documentation, the transparency that this is happening? You watch.
Yeah, and then when
that would be funny. We'll see how the Republicans handle this. Will they stand up some kind of reporting framework for this?
No, they're just going to say, trust us. We did this. We got everybody to sign. I don't think there's no teeth to it. So there's no reason not to. And rates are going to keep going up. And now they're going to point to this thing that they signed in March of this year and say, look, it's not us. We didn't do it. We signed this pledge. And they're going to try and pass the blame to someone else. And
well,
I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah. And as you know, like, one of the drivers of this is the current community pushback and general nationwide consensus seems like building this against anti-AI in the US. I don't know if you heard the AI podcast, the All In podcast this past week. They talked about this stat. Apparently AI in America is polling like, I guess the only thing
below
worse
ice.
Right? But it's worse than ice. Yeah, it's like less popular than ice. And it's like less popular than the war in Iran. And it's like,
yeah.
Other countries, Sachs always points out, this is not happening in other countries, especially in Asia. And so it's, why is that happening? But yeah, I mean, this is, I think, trying to address what it seems like. There was another stat they cited, something like 40% of every data center since 2023 is being like vehemently pushed back by the local community. So this is an attempt at trying to quell the public sentiment against AI, but it's like, as Chamath keeps pointing out on the All In, they need to be doing much more. And he's had this idea. I don't think he says it on the All In, because he doesn't want to piss off Sachs. He's like, doesn't want to be too.
Yeah.
He's like trying to be in the middle. But he's he's tweeted like how if he was the Trump administration or running the DOE or I don't know, in part of some hyperscaler consortium about thinking about all this, like you should just be giving residents of America free solar and free batteries. It's like give it out. Like
yeah.
Let's make electricity free for homeowners. That's his idea. Because like the amount of cash and money that these companies have sitting there that doesn't help them on their balance sheet, like why not do that with it? So it's like, what? Yeah, why are we screwing around with voluntary commitments? Why don't we like, do something?
Do something. Actually do something. And it's just kind of shocking to me that this is where we landed.
Although, I mean, this goes back to you and I we're going long on this, but it's like, how does the federal government do something? We watched the Inflation Reduction Act just brilliantly fail, and you and I have talked about stories we've seen with our own eyes about fraud.
I don't want the federal government to do anything. I think they're beyond the point of really expecting them to be competent in anything. When I say do something, I'm pointing to the tech companies that are competent. Like they know they're driving rates up. They all went to Washington and convened and had a press conference about this, but to your point, to Chamath's point, like you guys are smart. You've all deployed renewables. They work. Like go pay for it on all of America. That to your point about the All In podcast, they talked about every data center was a lost 10 billion in revenue. Was that the metric that they used? So to take a fraction of that 10 billion and put it to deploying solar and batteries in everybody's house. It's like you're still going to net out way ahead. But
I'll pat myself on the back. I as someone who was at one of the big tech companies years ago and seeing the whole net zero thing be a challenge and having us have trouble investing in our own assets, being like, why aren't we helping some of these in these cities where we operate? So like, why don't we spend some money on helping low income housing get more efficient? And there's all these dual benefits, not just about saving energy and reducing emissions, but our reputation in the community. But what I can imagine is happening in these big tech companies, even if there are lots of smart people probably having the same ideas you and I are having right now, it's like they're their own versions of the federal government. Like getting those
Yeah.
ideas into
Yeah.
action out of these like sustainability groups is just it's really hard.
But imagine the power that something like this would have in getting a community to support a data center. We're going to build a new data center in Phoenix. As a result, every homeowner is going to get solar and storage.
Solar and
Like,
storage, you no more
I
utility
would
bill.
support it.
Yeah, and
Easy.
it's got to be a high ROI for that cash, right?
Yeah. So I feel like I agree. These companies are their own bureaucratic nightmares, but like profit at all costs. What are we going to do to drive another dollar in value? Like they got to get a little more creative than voluntary commitments.
Maybe this is a less talk, more action business here somewhere. I don't know what we're doing in this supply chain to figure this out, but it's I've been dancing around this for years. Like this should be figured out. All right. Well, that was fun. We wish the Trump administration and hyperscalers the best of luck with their voluntary commitments, and we'll be reporting on progress here on the Let's Talk More Action podcast. With that, let's jump into our conversation with Bob Clark. Joining us today is Robert Clark, a professor of heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration at the College of DuPage. Bob is a nationally recognized leader in the HVAC field and was named Illinois Post-Secondary Career and Technical Educator of the Year, later earning regional honors from the Association for Career and Technical Education. Before entering academia, he spent years working in industrial maintenance, refrigeration, and running his own HVAC business, bringing real-world experience directly into the classroom. Today, he leads one of the country's most respected HVAC training programs, helping prepare the next generation of technicians to meet the growing demand for skilled professionals in the heating and cooling industry. So, Bob, welcome to Let's Talk More Action.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, Bob, you seem like a kind of guy who likes to get right to work, as do we. We start all our guests off with the same question. How are you taking action to make the world a better place?
Every day, you got to show up and you got to get it done. And that's what it comes down to. Teaching success, and a little less about feelings, a little bit more about how are you going to be successful in the world, right? How do we teach real skills? How do we teach real dexterities and soft skills that apply to that business arena, set of skills that they're going to need every single day to be successful? But, I made a choice a long time ago to stop, and think, do I want to be the best technician? Do I want to move up a corporate chain? And I really enjoyed teaching, and I decided, we can have a greater effect on folks if I was teaching and training the technicians that could be those people all over the country. And as of today, that's kind of what's happening with that program. We have students that run data centers all over America. They're in buildings, they're chief engineers, they're mechanical contractors, foremen. So, every single day, when you think about, hey, how's that building going to stay cold? How are we going to manage that energy? How's it going to, stay warm in the winter? That's important stuff for the world. They're real practical things, right? So,
No doubt.
Well, Bob, we hear about the blue collar boom a lot, just due to like data center build out. And we hear about sort of the threat of job loss from AI. How do we connect the two dots, like from an earlier age? How do we get kids excited about trades from the beginning?
the AI piece is really interesting on two fronts. From the education front, AI is eroding the creativity and innovation, I think, out of students' minds. When they do their homework, it kind of hollows them out. And I have to constantly battle. You're doing this assignments because it relates to the skill sets and dexterities and philosophical background you actually need to be successful to troubleshoot a complicated set of systems, right? So I wrote my dissertation on was systems thinking for post-secondary HVACR educators, right? It's because you have to think a system within a system within a system. When I was doing my MBA and stuff, every MBA program in the country uses what? HVAC to describe systems thinking. So it's interesting. It's a simple thermostat, but when you get into HVAC systems, they get just absolutely insane. Now, the AI front's been sold to America through every modality out there that AI is the future. AI is the future, but how is it the future? And I deal with this in our curriculum. I deal with this, not in our curriculum for the college too, is everybody's fighting for this new territory called AI. And my question is what is the practical outcome that's going to affect individually programs, and how do we bolster that, right? And make sure that we have the right buy-in, and it's not just philosophy courses. It's something that has pragmatic outcomes, as opposed to another degree that is a fun piece of paper. And you know, that AI thing from students now and how they're taught, we have a problem with career and technical education in our country, and it's not being addressed. And when you have CTE being led by people with philosophy degrees and education degrees, when I can't get my job unless I have a CTE HVAC degree, we got a problem. And you wonder why they're running CTE into the ground, or have been the last 10 years, where it's not supported the way it should be, right?
Wait, what is CTE? Oh, career technical education.
Technical education.
All right. Yeah.
So
education.
Bob, I had Joel's heard this story before, but I had a company called Lumio a few years ago, several years ago. We were doing a lot of solar projects at schools, public schools,
Sure.
In California. And the fastest growing job industry in California was renewable energy. We were doing renewable energy projects at schools. I started a nonprofit called Trade Labs to try and connect the two, to get kids out to the job sites at the schools and just teach them, talk to an electrician, talk to the different tradespeople that were there, and just get a different idea about kind of job career pathways outside of just go to college, get a degree, and see what happens. And for the life of me, could not get a single district to buy into this idea. There was too much liability about getting them outside into the job site. It was so frustrating.
The politics in education are pathetic. Somebody send this to the president of the U.S. when you guys get done with this. But let them know that when you let a bunch of generally educated people lead education all over America, you're going to destroy career and technical education, which is what they have done. And there's no question about it. Why is the cost of labor so high? It's because we don't have skilled technicians. And if you don't get a damn clue in this world about that CTE, we're going to find out when we get to when historically, you guys, when CTE, career and technical education, was like, oh, we have a problem. When was that? It was when we went to war and people started building stuff and didn't know what they were doing, and stuff was wrong, upside down. A gun barrel couldn't fit from Illinois in Ohio at Ithaca Guns, probably not too far from you, in New York, right? So, I remember Ithaca Guns by Cornell there. I did a bioenergy fellowship there. It was pretty cool. But the problem is again, I have a strong connection to general education. I believe in it, philosophy, arts, all of those things, 100%. Literature, I've read more than probably most teachers. My point is that when we're talking about getting stuff done and building stuff and managing labs and managing educators that shouldn't be lifelong educators, I don't care if you're a lifelong educator, as long as you know how to teach people to get it done, right? You have to have formidable outcomes. There always is this new thing, like get an advisory board to do this and they'll help you. And well, you can show up if you want to, but all those people are protected by their contracts. And well, I don't have to do these things and I don't want to. I always tell people education is a privilege, not an entitlement. And when people get that with a 2x4 to the forehead, they'll understand that you need to wake up America and make sure that CTE is a priority, because it's about national defense. Look at data centers. You guys are talking about data centers. Most of the world has no idea that most data centers that are starting running now are running on diesel fuel because we don't have grid capacity. Well, let me tell you something. When a big electric utility company goes out there to hire 200 people, the attrition rate, they have like 20% left by the time they're done. Data centers consume 40,000, about the same energy as a basic one, 40,000 homes, the same energy footprint as 40,000 homes. That's insane. So when people talk about quantum and data centers and all these, hot pie in the sky BS things, none of them think, hey, we need to bolster our infrastructure and utility, like training and initiatives in education, because who's going to build it? Who's going to cool it? The demand is crazy.
Well, like Owen said, we're all hearing about the blue collar boom, and especially people like us that have white collar jobs, we're expected to be disrupted. But how are we? I guess like everyone's like, this is coming. All the HVAC people or various trades, the average age is in their 50s and 60s, and there's just everyone screaming sort of about this problem. Not screaming, but like identifying there's a problem. We're gonna hit it soon. Sounds like you're saying it's actually here now, but what should the country be doing more to help?
Yeah, how do we fix
all
CT?
this?
Okay, this is going to sound radical, right?
Oh, we love it.
And I want you to know that I have other things that go with it. Like,
you had me at
you
radical.
need to defund education. Like,
okay,
if they don't start playing by better rules, education is so political. Think about how pathetic politics have been for the last like 10 years, right? Education has got so much politics of, oh, I don't want to upset those people. Well, sorry. If you're not doing your job as a faculty member, time to go. Time to go. And you know what? If you're a civil servant paid by taxpayer dollars, you have a duty to do the best you can with what you got. And
are you talking more about teachers or like admin in this story?
How admin interface with teachers. And now you want to talk about kids. Go into your kids thing. I do a lot of different outreach things, and I've done a lot of different outreach things over the years. And let me tell you how it's led. Now because it's a buzzword, they're kind of like, oh yeah, we're going to talk about trades. I wrote an article called "It's Time to Shut the Heating and Cooling Off in the Ivory Tower" years ago. And the reason I wrote it is to say, if you wonder why we have a problem in education, basically, more or less, it was an interview I did, but then I clarified my position in an article. If you wonder why we have a problem, you have people that are psychology educated folks giving career advice to people who have never had a career a day in their life. And they give all of our children advice about what to do and are the gatekeepers of all of those kids. If you don't see a counselor, and then they'll have a career day like, oh, here's some trades over there. They don't tell you that you're going to be $250,000 in debt with a degree in, let's just pick something random like, gender studies. And you go, hey, how come I can't get a job? And this is the reality of what happens. Well, when those kids don't get jobs, what happens? They go back and get a teaching cert, and now they're teaching kids. And then you look at just the complicated problems that evolve out of meaningless degrees. So career pathways, when you say that, it's great. But I also would like to defend, you get too rigid with, hey, you need to take this class and have a career and be successful. Where school should also still have, hey, let's take an art class. Let's take a philosophy class. Let's learn how to look at a sunset and enjoy the world. Okay? You can't dismantle that in education, whereas that's the rioting that's going on now in education is, hey, it's going this way, and career pathways, and all the administrators are catering to that mindset of, oh yeah, let's go to careers, and they're starting to bolster. So what do? They throw tax dollars at it. They try to build a new lab. Let me tell you something about labs. You guys need to understand, across America, you have labs that are just museums. If you don't see wrench marks, if you don't see torch marks, if you don't see stuff like broken and everything else, they're not working on anything. That there is a furnace. Well, that is electric wire.
Bob, just real quick. So I'm with you. I think the education system's broken. Joel and I saw this firsthand at grad school. The school was trying to hire a new professor for corporate sustainability. And it was like, we can either hire a guy that has been teaching about corporate sustainability for 10 years or someone who's actually been practicing it. And the school couldn't figure out how to hire the practitioner because they needed like certain degree. I'm not quite sure what happened, but it seems like if you are just to weigh the college pathway against the trades. On the surface, the trades will win out every time, especially now with sort of all the job loss threat of AI. How can the trades like step up and compete with colleges in like a more creative manner? Because I'm with you, the education system's broken and corrupt, but it seems like the trades have to do a better job.
Let's also clarify a position of community colleges are positioned. They're the only ones bolstering trades, right? They have the tech programs. You take a community college, especially like ours, we will beat down any 4-year school in America, and they can come get some whenever they want. I don't care what title they got, right? Doesn't matter. We will beat them down in any competition. They have no chance. But, you know, because I get people touring that went to all the Ivy League schools and that, and I always tell them, bring your professors in if they want an education, right? We're not here to talk about ideas. We're here about to get ideas done. And that's the thing with these 4-year schools. 2-year schools, technical college systems, community college systems, there's about 3,600 gentlemen across the country, you know, in that range, right? And they need more attention. They need more attention from our president. They need more attention from the Department of Education, because that's the only place we're going to solve this labor problem and skilled trade problem. And let me tell you, it's not going to be solved at the unions. I have a lot of love and respect for some of the top unions in the whole country. I do. But they need help too, right? And tax grant and all this money was thrown at it. That's what administrative Department of Education, generally educated people do. They throw money at a problem that goes into the air.
But I feel like this administration, at least like this version of the Republican Party, they seem aligned more with blue collar and defunding bloated regulatory agencies that aren't serving their purpose anymore. Is that 100%. Happening? Is it been better in the recent administration?
Okay, you can't just jump in. Education is a cog that moves every 2 years. It takes so long to get policy through, and there's no pressure on politicians the way it should be, because they're already out working for somebody else probably or something. But education should be a top priority, especially career and technical education. And it's not argued with a lot, because you know what everybody has to do? Pay about twice as much for a furnace nowadays, right? And when people start paying more, they start understanding more that we have a problem. When your plumbers are making more than attorneys in the area, you got to go, what happened?
It's a problem, like, but it's an opportunity, right? I mean, that's
yeah, and you can't just look at it as an opportunity. It's a national defense issue. That's when career and technical education will always be going, oh man, we got a problem. How are we going to fix it? You know, what happened in 2003 with nursing? Baby boomers are going to retire. Everybody's going to need healthcare. We don't have enough. What did they do? They gave like $400 billion to nursing, and overnight programs popped up all over the country, whether they were good or not. Take that to heart and think about it. Whether they were good or not. I'm not saying they're like daycares in Minnesota, but they're, you know, it's something along those lines, right?
First time that's come up on the show. That's good.
You like that? That was good, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. But that's a good business
Bob,
too.
Give us some. We got young listeners on the pod here. Give us some bullet points. Like, what are average salaries coming out of HVAC tech school? What's the demand like in terms of getting jobs? I mean, it seems, again, I keep getting to this point where it seems so obvious. I have a 20-year-old stepson who's contemplating this right now, and it seems so obvious to go to the trades, but there's this like disconnect somewhere along the line. So give us some talking points.
Let me tell you about what happens.
2 years? Like you graduate your program in 2 years and then you're certified? Like, explain, I guess, the nuts and bolts here.
Yeah. Well, we set ours up a little bit different. You got all these private people out there, and guess what? Those private people, I will beat every one of their institutions into the dirt across America, because you're out there for money. I'm here for the kids. And that's what it's about, and that's what it should be about. So we have a 1 semester, 16-week program in our school. A lot of schools aren't set up like that. But to compete with the private schools, because they sell these kids on their programs, there's a whole privatization of education thing that could turn into a problem if we just start throwing money at crap. That's what happened to Australia. It destroyed their education system in 2015. You can't throw money at people, because then they'll start printing degrees as cash, right? No, it's not good. We have to have a public good, a public service, but we have to have accountability in it. Sounds like our politicians need the same thing. But anyway, when we look at what kids need to understand about their future is that you don't need to take general math classes that you're afraid of. You don't need to take any of those things at your community college. You can go straight in and take those classes and learn how to be a student, because whatever happened in education that made you not like it, there are people at every community college system in America that will teach you the love for education and learning. And that's what every student needs to learn. Now, technical education is super fun, and you're in there doing labs and you're learning practical, real things you can apply to your life every single day, all the time. When the kids come through, the first thing I tell them all is, you know what? Do you play Xbox? I said, because if you don't have heating and cooling, there is no internet or Xbox Live, right? You don't have cooling going to a data center. It burns to the ground and it's over. And that's the same way with quantum computing. That's the same way with the internet. It's the same way with our power plants and how the lights come on. We take for granted how the water flows through your pipes, that you take that extra long shower on, that you don't even realize how the gas gets to that home. Natural gas. Yes, those people talking smack about natural gas nationally are messed up because none of them know anything about energy. I was on this thing, you guys, and it was this white paper. And all these people were given policy advice about, and I'm all for solar. I've been all over the country doing that. There's a time and a place for it, and wind and renewables. But guess what? It's not base load. And when people start talking about the electrification of our world, they have no idea how energy works. They have no idea, right? So if 60% or 58% of the world is generated by natural gas power, and then it generates at only 30% efficiency. You push it through transmission lines. It comes to your home, right? And by the time it gets to your house, it's like 22% efficient, right? So then you plug your car in that you think is 100% efficient, and you think you're saving the world? No, you're just a moron. I'm not saying I don't like electric cars, but when people start telling me about energy that don't even know how to wire a switch up, it annoys me, as you can tell. And those people in this world should not be writing policy. Another problem we have. They all went to some Ivy League school, and they're writing policy about energy and can't even wire a light switch. Go home. You're destroying America. Get out of here.
Well, I mean, I'll admit, I was one of these people. I worked for city government, and I was idealistic.
You know what I mean?
Wanting to solve climate change, and I was writing energy policy that was restricting single-family homes in where I lived, or where the city was. And looking back, I wasn't a homeowner then. I didn't know shit about anything with energy, as you're describing. I was trying to make a name for myself, and like it was the stated position of our city to reach these climate goals. But I saw firsthand, like looking back, I should not have been writing that policy. And there's as you know, thousands of me out there doing it.
Yeah, these communities, Joel. You got these communities, and these people are making policy, and I always feel like I'm in this constant thing where I got to defend as a civil servant, like, hey, don't put heat pumps in a cold climate until we start really testing them. And you're wondering why they don't perform. Well, yeah, they'll still keep up. But when they switch over to electric and the cost of electric's 5 to 1, or 3 to 1, it's 3.2 or something to 1 nationally on average, the cost of it. Now you're making people pay more.
We talked about,
you got a job to protect citizens.
We just right? I was in an argument on LinkedIn recently because Governor Hochul here in New York recently has advocated to roll back some of the climate policy because she is seeing the writing on the wall that energy bills in New York are getting worse, and they're going to start blaming this legislation. And so she's facing backlash from the sustainability community for rolling back this regulation. Meanwhile, she's doing what you're saying is right, which is trying to reduce the friction on homeowners. Yeah, I kind of, I've been, this show is a lot about sustainability and climate, and I think we're all for solutions if they make sense. But I, as a New Yorker now, owns a home and has to spend a lot on energy, you think to myself, I don't need you with more climate policies, New York. I need you to figure out a way to lower my energy bill.
And Joel, the problem here is if you're not looking out what's best for the lion's share of the people, nobody cares about the rich people. Like, you guys, they could pay for anything, right? But the average working human being And what are data centers going to, this is what nobody wants to say, Joel, anywhere. And I'll say it because I don't care, right? Is that when data centers drive utility costs up because of the capacity fight, and we're not doing anything on the front lines because people are too worried about their politics, all those politicians defending that should be shamed in public. You are destroying the ability for families in America to put food on their plates for their kids, and that's what I'm here to defend. I don't give a crap about their self-interested garbage. That's the problem in education, is when you get self-interested people in leadership positions, they should not be. You should be here for the public good, the community, the industry, and those students. And it's not just the students. You are there for the community and the industry. Look at what's happened in the communities. The cost of labor has almost doubled in the last 4 years. You don't think that's attributed to something in education? I could blame education for that. You need to do a better job at bolstering and communicating to your community and not getting people to leave for these jobs that, Joel, there was a project out in Colorado. Nobody talks about it. It was like $400 billion or something like they got. And they hired people from all over the world, ran it for 2 years, paid everybody exorbitant salaries and everything else. And it just shut down. It was some decarbonization project. But it was all because of climate change dollars, and they found a way to funnel it somewhere.
High-speed rail in California is probably very similar. Yeah, a lot of money went to consulting.
You could have taken $400 billion and built tech programs. We could have built new infrastructure for the grid.
Well, actually, so we're getting close to times, and this is a question I wanted to ask. It's a little bit of a pivot. We were introduced by a friend of the show, Kyle Hendricks at EQR, and he, in his email I'm looking at right now where he introduced us, he described your passion for the space, which I think we've experienced here today, and how you've taken this entrepreneurial look to education. So like on this show, we like to talk about solutions and technologies, and that's all cool, but we also like to learn about people like yourself, your journey to where you are now. And it sounds like you've owned businesses, you run businesses, but then you had this light bulb that said, I want to be an educator. That matters to me. But like you seem to be taking a different approach. So I guess maybe elaborate a little bit on the way you're thinking about the way your team and your organization educates.
So one of our goals is we're always in a lab, right? You're always working hands-on experiences for students so they hit the ground prepared. We actually built our lab, which is, in my opinion, the best lab in the country, because nobody can say this one thing, is that our students built our lab. We had our students built our lab, and when they screwed it up, I can't tell you how many times I made them cut pipe out, put it back in, put it together, and it is its own art form. But I know that industry people take us seriously when they see the work that our students do, and having that showcase like a portfolio of their work and getting them to take pride in it and believe in it. And you should see like the reach that we have and like the brilliance in our community, everything from our water commission to our utilities. And, the politics and utilities need to go away a little bit. We need to have multiple sources of energy. It's what creates reliability for our grid systems. And, when you support industry, when you support students, when you support, hey, an ethical consideration for your community, so you're not going in there, and saying things like, I'm sorry, ma'am, your thermostat batteries are low. You're going to need a new furnace. Stuff like that. You really got to put a lot of things in their head. And that's why I said philosophy and ethics, and those so important. And when we get into such a deficit for technical education that people go hard towards it, I'm afraid of what happens to some of the brilliance and beauty, that is, attainable in every education community in the world, right? It's not. It's like one hurting the other, right? We should just be bolstering and supporting technical education programs all the way through. Like, why did they take, I was talking to a congressman, he's catching, he's pretty popular, and he was in the community, and I won't bring his name up, but he's a nice guy. And
a U.S. congressman.
He said, Bob, he goes, why do we need metal shop and wood shop in the middle schools? I said, there's no jobs for that anymore. I said, what? I said, there's jobs everywhere in it. And I said, you need to understand those kids, this guy, the forefather of all technical education said, it's about the mind, Pestalozzi said, the mind, the heart, and the hands. right? The dexterity to the mind and the passion for it. And kids need to be taught under those three tenets, right? And when we're looking at middle school and you take away wood shop and when you take away home ec, dear God, is it not important to teach kids how to cook? We do it every day of our lives. And it's a technical thing. Half cup here, this there, at this time, for this way. It's a process. Art is a process, right? Wood shop is a process. You're taking away and robbing them of their spatial and mechanical aptitudes. And he was like, I never thought about it like that. And I was like, and yet every Department of Education leader wanted to take those classes away, and they did. And they're not being held accountable. They need to go back and they need to give all those people demerits and tell them they failed Bob's class of what are we going to do for the future of children in technical education. They failed.
Well, I'm gonna transition us from there and to wrap up with a final question. So, Bob, a lot of passion for what's not going well or right here, but I'm sure you're an optimistic guy, and we like to end the show on some on what's to be hopeful about. So, tell us what gives you hope for the future.
Well, there's definitely opportunity for any student going into any technical education to go really far, but you got to show up on time. You got to have the 10 things that require zero talent, and you got to get it done. Right? You got to have the right attitude. You got to be professional enough to the point where you can maintain your position, but opportunities are endless. And what's opening up in energy and infrastructure and what the future holds, with the new industries and movements towards different power, I think what Elon's doing down in SpaceX, like, let's go to Mars. How are we going to build rocket ships if we don't have technicians, buddy? Let's figure this out. We have a problem in the Department of Education, and it needs to be addressed. Get rid of all those general educated people and tell them to go teach general education and lead it. Put career and technical education people in the Department of Education for career and technical education, and not people that just kind of think trades are good, If you don't have practical outcomes, if you don't have accountability for instructors, those are the kind of things we need, and it's coming. And there will be a change, and it won't just be because somebody is having a revolution. It's because we have to. If we want to fix the machines, if somebody has to fix the robots, everybody's always worried about Skynet. Technicians are bulletproof to AI. There is no robot that can fix a machine like a human. There isn't one. It doesn't exist. It won't for the next 30 years, I bet. Right? I'm not saying we can't have robots that do little things and basic maintenance. Right? It'll be no different than the operators that were replaced by automation for a while. It'll be basic things. But really technical system level things, there's nothing better than the mind of a human to address those problems. And that lends opportunity to the world and children, for the next 30 years, no problem. But after 30 years, you better start thinking about something else, right? Depends on how fast we evolve, right? You never know.
Well, let's wrap it up there. I don't know what we're going to call this show. Maybe defund the education. Maybe
that'd be hilarious.
Maybe don't worry about the robots. We'll see.
You can call it defund education that doesn't understand CTE.
Okay, we'll take the recommendation. Well, Bob, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining. Thank you for all the work you do. Before we wrap up, anything to plug? Can people follow you anywhere or go to the college's website? What do you want to plug here?
You can go to the college there. We got a new president. He's doing great. He's really into a lot of different technical education. He's a technical background, so it's great. But yeah, you can follow us probably at College of the Page and our HVAC program, something in there. But I'm glad to be on the show. It's good. I like that you guys are out there talking about these issues that need to be addressed. But there's only one way to really address them, right? And that's hold people accountable. Make sure they're doing their job and getting it done, because it matters for your community, your students, and your industry. And that's all it's about. And the second you think it's not, you're not an American.
Well, we'll wrap up there. Owen and I also like to hold the sustainability nerd crowd accountable that we often critique. And I'm sure they're going to love some of the messages of this episode, especially the anti-electrification stances.
Guys, on another episode of sustainability, I'd love to talk to you guys about that. But I mean, I've been around the country for that kind of stuff. I got a big place in my heart for it, but I'm going to tell them how it is and they're going to understand it. So
we'll have you back on. I'm happy to.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Owen. Thank you to the audience.
Thanks, Bob.
You can find this podcast and more great content at letstalkmoreaction.com. If you like the podcast, please subscribe, like, and share with your friends. And until next time, we encourage you to ask yourself, what are you doing to take action to make the world a better place?